The sudden rage you feel over a simple spilled cup of coffee at 40 is not about the coffee. It is not a sign that you are broken or a psychological disease meant to be heavily medicated. Carl Jung understood this terrifying emotional collapse not as a moral failure, but as an awakening. He saw it as the most desperate, violent warning your neglected soul will ever send you. Because trying to simply control your emotions is the exact reason they are slowly destroying your life. The inner citadel. Today, we explore the weaponized psychology of your darkest emotions and how to finally break free. By the time we reach our 40s, we have successfully mastered the exhausting art of wearing masks. We are reliable parents, dedicated professionals, and the stable pillars of our families. We are the good people. But beneath this incredibly polished exterior lies a fractured, exhausted foundation that is beginning to crack. Psychologists refer to this brutal phase of existence as the rush hour of life. You are simultaneously fighting to maintain a career, raise your children, and helplessly watch your own parents age. The pressure is entirely invisible to the outside world, yet it is heavy enough to crush bone. To survive this daily grind, you have likely employed a very dangerous, albeit unconscious, psychological tactic. You have brutally suppressed every single feeling that does not fit into your perfectly functional life. Your secret resentments, your unwept grief, your forbidden desires, none of them actually disappeared. They were simply exiled into the darkest, most neglected basement of your unconscious mind. Carl Jung, the pioneer of analytical psychology, called this dark, forgotten basement the shadow. And the terrifying truth about the shadow is that it refuses to stay quiet forever. The more energy you spend pushing it down, the denser, angrier, and more explosive it inevitably becomes. Until one day, a painfully minor inconvenience acts as the spark that ignites the powder keg. You scream at someone you love, you break something irreplaceable, or you sink into a profound, hollow despair. You look in the mirror after the storm passes, and you do not recognize the stranger staring back at you. Modern self-help society tells you to just meditate, to breathe deeply, and to manage your stress. But trying to manage a raging shadow with breathing exercises is like putting a delicate band-aid on a volcano. The ancient Stoics knew this well. Seneca famously wrote that anger is nothing less than a temporary madness. But to truly cure this madness, you must have the courage to face the wounded animal causing it. You must stop running from the darkness and begin the terrifying, yet beautiful work of psychological integration. This work is not about abandoning your morals and becoming a bad, reckless person. It is about becoming a whole, authentic person, finally capable of wielding your raw emotions as a profound tool. But the first step on this path requires us to systematically dismantle the very identity you have worked so hard to build. To understand the destructive power of your shadow, we must first examine the architect that built its prison, your persona. In Jungian psychology, the persona is the social mask we carefully design to be accepted by the world. In your 20s and 30s, this mask was a necessary tool for survival and social ascent. You learned how to nod politely at the unreasonable boss, how to be the selfless parent, how to never complain. But by the time you reach 40, a terrifying psychological fusion has occurred. The mask has fused so deeply to your skin that you have forgotten what your real face looks like. You are utterly exhausted because you are performing a fabricated character every single waking hour of your life. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus warned us centuries ago about the heavy toll of playing a role you were not meant for. He argued that abandoning your true nature to please the crowd is the ultimate betrayal of the self. And this betrayal does not go unpunished. Your nervous system is quietly keeping score of every lie you tell yourself. Every time you bite your tongue to keep the peace, the energy of that suppressed emotion does not simply vanish. According to the laws of neuroplasticity, repressing negative emotions actively rewires your brain for chronic stress. It sinks deep into your amygdala, transforming situational anger into a permanent state of low-grade anxiety. This is why you feel a constant, suffocating weight on your chest, even when everything seems perfectly fine. It is the immense pressure of 1,000 unexpressed truths, pushing desperately against the walls of your own mind. To cope with this overwhelming inner tension, we turn to the modern world's endless menu of anesthetics. 2 glasses of wine every evening to blur the edges of the day. 3 hours of mindless scrolling to numb the brain. We are desperately self-medicating, trying to put the shadow back to sleep before it destroys our perfectly constructed lives. But the shadow is infinitely patient. It does not sleep. It waits for a moment of weakness. And when the internal pressure finally peaks, it escapes through a devastating psychological mechanism. Carl Jung called this mechanism projection, and it is the secret reason behind your most irrational conflicts. Projection occurs when your unconscious mind takes your hidden darkness, your flaws, and your repressed anger, and forcefully paints them onto the faces of the people around you. That coworker whose minor laziness fills you with an absolutely blinding, irrational rage. You are not really angry at them. You are attacking them because they are living out the freedom and laziness you forbid yourself to feel. Your explosive anger over your spouse's small mistake isn't actually about their mistake. It is about your own repressed guilt. It is the shadow desperately trying to offload its heavy burden onto someone else. As long as you project your inner demons onto the external world, you will always be a victim of your circumstances. You will spend your entire life trying to fix other people, never realizing that the call is coming from inside the house. If you wish to reclaim your life, you must stop pointing fingers at the world and turn the mirror toward the dark. The moment you realize your explosive anger is actually a mirror reflecting your own wounds, everything changes. Carl Jung called this terrifying but entirely necessary process shadow work. It is the conscious, courageous decision to walk back down into the dark basement of your mind, and to finally sit down at the table with the monsters you have spent your entire adult life running from. By the time you reach your 40s, your psyche is aggressively demanding a shift in strategy. It is demanding that you stop trying to be merely a good person and start doing the work to become a whole person. Being whole means accepting a very uncomfortable truth. You are deeply capable of selfishness, anger, and profound destruction. Paradoxically, acknowledging your capacity for darkness is the only way to truly choose the light. A completely harmless person is not a virtuous person. They are simply powerless, incapable of doing damage. True virtue, as the Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius understood, is possessing a very sharp sword and consciously keeping it sheathed. Jung called this lifelong journey toward absolute wholeness individuation. Individuation is the agonizingly slow stripping away of the psychological armor you wore in your youth. It marks the profound transition from the outward pursuit of money and status to the deep, inward pursuit of meaning. You feel so lost right now not because you are failing at life, but because your old map is entirely useless here. The shiny goals that motivated you at 25 are fundamentally empty to the soul of a 45-year-old. Your current depression is not a malfunction. It is your mind's absolute refusal to play a game it has already outgrown. Modern neuroscience deeply supports this profound psychological and spiritual shift in midlife. As we age, our brains naturally prune away the hyperactive neural pathways associated with seeking external validation. The brain's plasticity shifts inward, strictly demanding deeper reflection, complex emotional processing, and genuine connection. But if we forcefully resist this biological evolution, if we cling desperately to our youthful masks, we become severely stagnant. We begin to suffer from a chronic, silent agony that ancient philosophers called a sickness of the soul. To heal this profound sickness, you must learn to perform a psychological alchemy on your own life. You must take the heavy, toxic lead of your shame, your regrets, and your hidden rage, and forge them through intense self-reflection into the indestructible gold of total self-awareness. Think of the countless men and women in their 40s who seem to have won the ultimate game of life. They have the respected title, the financial security, the meticulously curated family portrait. Yet they sit entirely alone in their luxury cars in the driveway, dreading the moment they have to walk inside. This is the ultimate, heartbreaking tragedy of the good person at the midpoint of life. Trying to be perfectly accommodating, perfectly selfless, and perfectly flawless is exactly what destroys us in the end. Because a life lived entirely for the expectations of others is not a life at all. It is a prolonged, psychological suicide. Carl Jung summarized this immense psychological danger with one of his most haunting, unforgettable quotes. He warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That is the true, hidden terror of the midlife experience. You genuinely believe you are making rational choices. But in reality, it is your unhealed wounds and your suppressed shadow making the decisions for you. It secretly dictates who you marry, why you divorce, why you drink, and why you feel so profoundly empty. So, how do we break this invisible, suffocating chain? How do we stop being a helpless victim to our own mind? The first step of shadow work is radically simple, yet terrifyingly difficult to execute in the heat of the moment. You must practice the ancient Stoic art of pure emotional observation, entirely without judgment or immediate reaction. The very next time you feel a surge of blinding, irrational anger at your spouse, your child, or a stranger, do not speak, do not react, do not lash out and project your pain onto them. Simply pause, close your eyes, and feel the raw, burning physical sensation of the emotion inside your chest. Ask your shadow directly, what deep, unhealed childhood wound is this trivial moment actually triggering? In that incredibly brief, silent pause, you are actively rewiring the physical neural pathways of your brain. You are consciously severing the automatic, destructive connection between unconscious pain and outward aggression. The second step is radical acceptance. You must invite the monster to sit beside you at the table. You must calmly acknowledge your profound capacity for cruelty, for extreme selfishness, and for absolute failure. When you stop denying these dark traits, they instantly lose their terrifying, explosive power over you. You no longer have to waste massive amounts of psychological energy pretending to be a flawless, perfectly good person. You can finally just be human, a beautifully flawed, complex, and incredibly dangerous human being who consciously, actively chooses to be gentle with the world. This is the ultimate, unshakable power of a fully individuated adult. This is the goal of the midlife journey. You become an emotional fortress. The petty dramas and criticisms of the outside world no longer penetrate your walls. Because there is absolutely nothing the world can reveal about you that you have not already accepted about yourself. Your relationships transform from anxious, codependent performances into genuine, grounded, and deeply peaceful connections. And that hollow, echoing emptiness you felt every morning at 40, it finally begins to fill with profound meaning. The midlife crisis was never a crisis at all. It was the messy, painful, but incredibly necessary birth of your authentic self. The journey inward is not for the faint of heart. It is the most brutal, demanding path you will ever walk. But it is the only path that leads to true, lasting emotional freedom. If you are ready to stop running from your shadows and finally build an unbreakable mind, subscribe to the Inner Citadel. Until next time, may you find the courage to face the darkness within and the profound peace that always follows the storm.